Speaking freely, thinking freely. This is Freethought Radio.
Welcome back to Freethought Radio. I'm Annie Laurie Gaylor. Our guest today is a very courageous teacher from Texas who resigned rather than having to force the 10 Commandments on her students.
Gigi Cervantes has over 20 years of experience as an acting teacher and has taught classes, camps, and workshops at multiple Dallas-Fort Worth theater companies. Most recently, she was a high school teacher and acting teacher at a fine arts charter school, but she left her position in protest of the Texas Ten Commandments statute, SB 10.
Gigi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, can we get right to what happened? What went on at your Fort Worth charter school? What did they tell you, and what did you decide to do?
I was only in my second year of teaching back. This is a long story, but I had previously been at this school for 10 years, left for 9 years to care for my mother, long story, and then went back. So I only went back last year. And last year, things were coming down the pike in the Texas legislature, and I said at that time to our principal at the time and our department chair that I was not going to hang 10 Commandments in my classroom. And then when it came down at the beginning of the year, this year, they presented us with the posters in a meeting, and I did not take one. And nothing happened for a couple of weeks, and then basically she serves as a superintendent. It's a small charter school. There as a sister school too, and she serves as the superintendent basically. And she came to my classroom looking for it, and we had a discussion out in the hall. I told her I was not going to put it up. I then sent a follow-up letter. This is where having an attorney husband comes in handy. Cited case law and said this is unconstitutional and I won't be putting it up, and this is why. And so nothing happened for a few weeks, and then I got an email on a Sunday saying that they had put it up in my room, which I had been waiting for them to do that because it's not my property. And so I sent my resignation in that evening. And I gave my 2 weeks notice only because of my students, and I was in the middle of directing a show and I didn't want to leave my cast hanging. And so I asked for 2 weeks, and they granted me the 2 weeks, and I finished out the show, and the show closed on a Sunday, and I packed up my room that evening and into the morning hours and left.
So we should clarify that this is SB 10. We mentioned it, but it requires the posting of a large 10 Commandments poster in every classroom in Texas.
In every public school.
Every public school. So did they force you to put the 10 Commandments up during your last 2 weeks, or did they leave that?
Well, they put them up, and oddly, they covered them up, which goes against the supposed law that they were following. So I didn't really understand that. And they put, something in the room in front of it. And so I left it that way. I didn't want to go through, a lot of people ask me, well, why didn't you just let them fire you? And I just didn't want to put my students through that. They were my number one concern, and I didn't want to go through the whole thing of taking them down and then putting them back up and being disciplined and all of that. So I left them up those 2 weeks, but they were covered. It was covered. I actually the next day went in and put the Bill of Rights up right next to it.
Good for you.
And so that was kind of showing still, but the 10 Commandments were not showing. And so I left them there.
So the big question, of course, is why? Why did you care so much? What is so wrong with this law, and why was it such an imposition to you and your students?
Well, it's number one, it's unconstitutional, and it's offensive to people who don't ascribe to even that particular version of the Ten Commandments.
Which is Protestant.
Which is not the same one that Catholics use or even that Jewish people use. So I don't know. In another interview with the AP, I think, I was asked, like, what is the makeup, religiously of your students? And I'm like, I don't know. And I don't need to know.
Right.
It's none of my business. Now, it did come up sometimes just as a matter of conversation in the work that we were doing, or someone would share something about themselves. We did a lot of sharing in my class, just in the interest of creating a safe and open space. And but I know that they're not all Protestant. Some are, and I received notes from students afterwards. And, one in particular said, I'm not religious, and I, thank you for protecting my rights.
Well, it wouldn't matter even if they were all Protestants. It still would be wrong.
Exactly. And I know some other teachers are putting up other religious texts, which I get that, but also that's missing the point too. We shouldn't have any religious texts in our classrooms. It's unconstitutional as things stand right now.
So what about the reactions, the response from parents or from the community?
Well, because I was there for 2 weeks, a lot of parents reached out to me, and other teachers. As far as I know, I didn't take a poll. I didn't try to be, Sally Field, and I didn't try to like get everyone else on board with my thinking. I really didn't even know how many, if there were any other teachers. As far as I know, there were none other that, I know there were some that were very unhappy about it, but I don't know if anybody else took any kind of action. But teachers would come up to me, even some that I didn't really know that well, because we worked on different floors, and would thank me for my courage. And parents also reached out, and students did as well.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation is part of the coalition that is suing over these Ten Commandments laws in Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas. And we have 3 suits, including now a class action suit in Texas. But I can't remember if there has been any legal action in Fort Worth since you resigned. Do you know? I should have checked it up.
I think, well, first of all, my school is not part of the Fort Worth Independent School District. It's a charter school. I call it my school. So I still feel that's a home.
Yeah.
But so Fort Worth Independent School District may be involved in the lawsuit. I think they are, in fact, but we were not. And of course, the injunction is only according to our Attorney General in Texas. It only applies to the schools that are actively participating in the lawsuit.
Except now we have a class action suit. Well, we are talking with Gigi Cervantes, who stood up for her convictions and sacrificed her job to make a stand for keeping religion and divisive doctrines out of our public school, like they should be, and quit rather than having 10 Commandments posters put up. And when we come back, Gigi, I want to ask you a little bit more about your husband's reaction and family and what you're doing now.
Hi, I'm Scott Nickelbein, FFRF's Director of IT, and I'm here in the studio to give you a first look at FFRF's newest media venture, Freethought TV. Freethought TV is a streaming service for your smart TV, streaming stick, or smartphone that lets you watch the latest FFRF programs whenever you want, free of charge. Freethought TV also gives you access to hundreds of programs we've produced right here over the years, including the most popular FFRF videos of all time. Freethought TV is easy to install. Just go to the App Store on your device and search for Freethought TV. Follow the on-screen instructions to install the app, and you're ready to start enjoying the best in secular programming right from the comfort of your living room. You can watch complete seasons of FFRF classics like Freethought Matters and Ask an Atheist. Plus, you'll get instant access to a powerhouse lineup of original shows, including candid interviews with celebrities, lawmakers, and secular activists, inspiring talks by best-selling authors and leading journalists, dynamic appearances by social media celebrities, legal insights from FFRF's expert attorneys, and laugh-out-loud comedy and wonderful musical performances. And of course, unforgettable speeches from FFRF's national conventions. There's a search function so you can find any episode instantly. And if you sign up for a free personal account, you get access to even more features. Freethought TV. It's free content for free minds.
As Mark Twain said, faith is believing what you know ain't so. This is Freethought Radio.
Welcome back. I'm Annie Laurie Gaylor.
And I'm Dan Barker, and we're continuing our conversation with Gigi Cervantes, a very brave Texas school teacher who resigned rather than having to force the Ten Commandments on her students. So, Gigi, you talked a little bit about the reactions that you got. You put up a Facebook page, and you got some responses from that. What was that like?
I did a Facebook post and really got so much positive, supportive feedback. I will say that most of my Facebook friends are people in the arts. And so they're very liberal-minded, progressive people. And but having this support has been invaluable because, you know, you question, like, did I do the right thing or not the right thing, but it does it even do any good for me to do this? And so the support was very important to me.
So, Gigi, it must have been very handy to be married to an attorney who teaches constitutional law. You must have talked it over with your husband when this law passed and you knew this was going to come down, that they were going to make you put a Ten Commandments poster in your classroom. That must have been a lot of support, but also what were the constitutional issues that you talked about and that mattered to both of you?
Well, obviously, the First Amendment, separation of church and state. It was very helpful to have him to help me craft my letter to administration and citing, helping me to cite case law, stating why it was they were asking me to violate federal law, to follow this, what I consider a fake Texas law.
And since the law, since they're being sued right now, you would think they would want to wait for that, but they went ahead and put it up, didn't they?
Well,
that was my hope, and that was what I, stated in my letter. And I said, I hope it will work its way through the courts quickly. Well, we know that hasn't been happening, but and that it would be resolved in that way. But
well,
no.
I, for one, want to say how important it is to us and to I'm sure the other coalition, people who are suing and all the other plaintiffs, that you took this action, and it was public, for a stance which also educates, and it also just shows the harm of the law. I mean, in a sense, all of the students are being coerced and victimized, and so are the teachers. And often we don't think about the teachers. Yeah. And it means so much to us that you took this stance, but so hard on you. I mean, financially and career-wise. And so how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It really has been, it was very painful because I loved what I did. And I felt like I was beginning to build something with my students, having been away for so long, but I was beginning to build something with these new students that I had. And it really was like a death, quite honestly. It's been a grieving process. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. And do you think that this has been a career-killing move in Texas? Will you be hireable somewhere else? I mean, you won't want to until they change the law, but what does this mean for you?
I don't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to teach in Texas under this current climate, for sure. Because there's more that's happening besides just the 10 Commandments, and also, depending on the outcome of the court case, this is a more than slippery slope into other, into even deeper, installing more religion into the classroom, and censorship and all of that kind of stuff. And so I don't know. I hope that somehow, some way, there is a place for me, or maybe I need to make my own place to teach, because I really love doing it. So.
Well, it's not just a loss for you; it's a loss for the students and the school that this imposition has come down from, I guess, theocratic legislators. And one thing we have seen with the 3 lawsuits that we're a part of in Texas is that there's been an outpouring of parents and families. I don't know if there's any teacher in our lawsuits. I have to check that, but multi-faith. So we even have some ministers, and then we have non-religious families and a variety of denominations. So it's something that people who care about the First Amendment and not having a state enforced religion can opt into. And may I ask, what are your personal feelings about religion or the 10 Commandments?
About the 10 Commandments themselves? Well, I was raised Catholic, but, and I would say I'm a spiritual person. I believe in a higher power. I believe there are many ways to that. I think there's some good advice in the 10 Commandments, which quite frankly are being broken as they're trying to force them onto us, ironically. But the thou shalt not lie one, I've just read about their argument that they're using about it being about history, teaching U.S. history. I'm like, that's a lie. That makes no sense. You're breaking the 10 Commandments.
Great point.
But to me, it's personal. It's very personal. I respect anybody else's decision to follow what they believe or not believe. It's, that's what has been one of the good things, or at least one of the good ideals of this country, is that we're free to practice whatever religion or to not practice any religion. So it's just a personal thing.
A lot of believers think it cheapens their faith if the government is forcing it rather than a free choice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't force. It does no good to force. I quite frankly, I feel the same way about the Pledge of Allegiance. You cannot force people to be patriotic by, just chanting something. You either are or you aren't.
You teaching high school students. I always think it's weird that anybody would think a kindergartner needs to be told not to commit adultery. But even high school students, It doesn't say fornication. It says adultery, as if you're married and you're, carrying on. So it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's performative. I think it's just performative.
What about the issue of academic freedom? Don't teachers have some right or some discretion in the classroom about what they teach or don't teach?
Well, you would think so. I think they kind of skirted that issue just by saying, like, when they, at least for our school, when it was presented to us, the posters were donated, that we didn't have to teach it. we didn't have to say anything about it. We just needed to put it up. So I guess that's how kind of skirting that issue.
Which you knew was wrong, constitutionally and ethically, and we salute you for taking this stance. Sorry that we have lost a public school teacher, at least temporarily, but thank you so much, Gigi, for taking this stance and joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for fighting the good fight. Hopefully things turn out well in the court case.
We hope so. Well, that's our show for today. If you're a member of FFRF, thank you. If not, please join us or ask for more information at ffrf.org or phone 1-800-335-4021 to request a sample copy of Freethought today. And please support FFRF's vital state church litigation and become part of the largest Freethought association in North America.